Hey, how's it going, do-it-yourselfers? Got a good one for you today. Are you broke yet need a car to get from point A to point B or to work and back? Or maybe you've done something wrong recently that you weren't supposed to do and got the man or the authorities after you and looking for a getaway car to get you into Mexico? If that's the case, fear none, because today I'm going to give you my top 5 picks for a decent yet reliable car that you can get for under $1,000. Now this video is more or less a follow-up to a previous video I did on my top 5 reliable cars that you can get for under $1,500. However, this video could have easily been for cars that you can buy for under $700, since most of these cars I'm about to mention, you can indeed get them for that cheap, but that's in Southern California where I live. In your area, it might be different. Alright, so coming out at number 5 is a 1997 to 2002 Ford Escort. These cars come with a single overhead cam 2.0 liter 4-cylinder engine. You have an option for a 5-speed manual or a 4-speed automatic transmission. And these engines produce 110 horsepower and 125 pound-feet of torque. And these vehicles have a curb weight of 2,468 pounds. Now these base model Ford Escorts are pretty decent. They have a reliable engine and transmission if well taken care of, and should do if you're looking for a point A to point B vehicle. The engines on these cars does have a timing belt, but it's a non-interference engine, which means if the timing belt breaks, the engine simply loses the ability to time itself and completely lose power, but you won't have catastrophic engine failure, and all you have to do is to put a timing belt back on and you should be able to go on your merry way. Now with that said, there are 2 problems that stick out. One is fairly major, which is a problem with the valve seats and the cylinder head on these cars. That seems to fall out, especially when these engines get to higher miles. And if that happens, you are going to at least need to replace your top end or the cylinder head, or completely replace the engine. And the second problem is with engine sludge, but that's usually easily remedied if you do the oil changes on time and also make sure that the PCV valve and the PCV system in general is in good condition. Now if you don't get the base model and get the Ford Escort ZX2, or maybe even a Ford Focus in those years, those cars come with a Z-Tech engine, which is a 2.0 liter dual overhead cam 4-cylinder engine. Those engines do not have the valve seat issue, and similar to the single overhead cams, they do have a timing belt, but again, they are non-interference. However, one thing you want to look at on those engines, if you want to make sure the cooling system is in good condition, make sure the thermostat, the water pump, have been replaced on time. Also the radiator is in good shape and the cooling system has been flushed as well, because if the cooling system is not in good condition, there's a chance you can blow a head gasket on those dual overhead cam engines. Alright, next up, coming in at number 4 is a 1990 to 1994 Toyota Tercel with a 1.5 liter single overhead cam 4-cylinder engine. These cars come with a 4 or 5-speed manual or a 3-speed automatic transmission. The engines on these cars produce 82 horsepower and 89 pound-feet of torque, and these vehicles have a curb weight of 2,015 pounds. I know on this list, Toyota comes at number 4 and not number 1, but it's for a good reason, as we're about to discuss. Now these cars are pretty reliable. They get good gas mileage, especially the manual one. These engines do have a timing belt, but again are a non-interference engine, which means if the timing belt breaks, you won't damage your engine. So yeah, if you can help it, try to buy one with a manual transmission and not the 3-speed automatic transmission, because that automatic transmission is not as reliable. Also with a manual transmission, you can get more efficient use out of your 82 horsepower producing 1.5 liter engine. Now these engines also have issues. Main one is actually excessive oil burning issues, which is caused by first the valve stem seals wearing out prematurely and causing oil leaks into the combustion chamber, and when that happens, you're obviously going to burn oil, but also going to have smoke coming out of your tailpipes, especially at startup. The second issue is your piston rings, especially the oil rings wearing out prematurely, and if that happens, you're going to have really high oil consumption issues, and you're going to smoke out the tailpipe on a more regular basis, but also you're going to have to keep a very close eye on your oil levels, because if it goes down below a certain point, obviously you're going to damage your engine and going to be in need of a new engine. Now to be honest, these 1.5 liter engines are so tiny and so easy to work on. If no catastrophic engine damage has happened, you can probably just remove the engine, take it apart, maybe rehone the block, replace the valve stem seals, replace the piston rings, replace your bearings, and put it back together in maybe 2 days and have something that's close to a new engine. All right, next, coming in at number 3 is a 1996 to 1999 Saturn SL2. These cars come with a dual overhead cam, 1.9 liter 4-cylinder engine, and you can get them with a 4-speed automatic or a 5-speed manual. The engines on these cars produce 124 horsepower and 122 pound-feet of torque, and these vehicles have a curb weight of 2,382 pounds. Now, the 1.9 liter dual overhead cam engines on these cars are pretty decent. They're fairly reliable, and they also come with a timing chain and not a timing belt, which means if the car has been taken care of properly, you do not have to worry about replacing it. Now, as these engines age and get to higher miles, they do start burning some oil, but it's not super excessive like the Toyota Tercel that we just talked about. And also, again, you're gonna have to keep an eye on the cooling system on these cars, because if you don't, there is a chance that you might blow a head gasket. Now, it's important that you try to get the dual overhead cam 1.9 liter engine that we just talked about that comes in the SL2, SC2, and the SW2, which is the station wagon Saturn, and not the single overhead cam 1.9 liter that comes in the base model, in other words the SL1, SC1, and the SW1 Saturns. And that's because the single overhead cam engines had problems with the cylinder heads developing cracks. And when that happens, your combustion gases from your combustion chamber would leak into the cooling system, overheating your engine, and that's when bad things happen. And I want to say this was mostly common from years 1995 to 1997, so you'll want to make sure you stay away from those. All right, coming in at number 2 is a 1992 to 1995 fifth generation Honda Civic. And these cars come with a 1.5 liter single overhead cam engine for the DX and the LX models, and you have options for a 4-speed automatic or a 5-speed manual transmission. These engines produce 102 horsepower and 98 pound-feet of torque, and these vehicles have a curb weight of 2,039 pounds. Now, the 1.5 liter engine on these Civics are pretty reliable, and they get really good gas mileage as well, especially if you match it up with a manual transmission. And if you maintain them properly, they last way over 200,000 miles, but they do come with a timing belt, and these engines are an interference engine, which means if the timing belt breaks, your valves would hit your piston and cause catastrophic engine failure. Now, for the EX, SI, and the VX models, you have an option for a 1.5 liter or a 1.6 liter VTEC engine, but we're going to assume you're unlikely to find a reliable one for under $1,000. Also, the non-VTEC ones are simply just a little bit more reliable since you don't have to deal with that system ever breaking down. Another thing you want to keep in mind is that there's a head gasket issue with the 1995 Honda Civics. Some people claim that it's a factory defect with the cylinder head. Others say it's the head gaskets themselves. But whatever the reason is, you want to keep that in mind when you're looking for a 5th generation Honda Civic, especially since people notice that even after you repair the head gasket problem on these 95 Civics, it's not uncommon for the head gasket to keep going bad for the second or the third time after that. Also, the automatic transmission on these are not super reliable, especially if it has not been maintained properly and the fluid and the filter hasn't been changed on time. So to be safe, if you can help it, get a manual, or if you're going to get an automatic, make sure that there's maintenance records from the previous owner. And now the moment you've been all waiting for. The number 1 vehicle on this list is going to be a 1990 to 1993 240 series Volvo. These rear-wheel drive Volvos come with a 2.3 liter single overhead cam engine, and you have an option for a 5-speed manual or a 4-speed automatic transmission. The engines on these cars produce 114 horsepower and 136 pound-feet of torque, and these vehicles have a curb weight of 2,800 pounds. The 2.3 liter engine on these cars does have a timing belt again, but it's a non-interference engine, which means if it breaks, no catastrophic engine failure will happen. Also, working on these engines is pretty easy. There's a lot of room in the engine bay. Therefore, if you ever have to get it fixed for anything, your labor costs will likely to be lower than usual. These vehicles are also very practical and quite roomy on the inside, and overall they're a solid Swedish built vehicle. Now, the engine and transmission on these are pretty solid. They last a long time, but there are other stuff that may go bad, like your engine and transmission mounts, depending on your driving habits. Also, the odometer not working is a common issue on these cars. And these cars also have two fuel pumps basically. There's one inside the fuel tank called the pre-pump, which pumps the gas from there to the main fuel pump that's outside the tank, I believe. And the pre-pump, the one that's inside the tank, fails from time to time. And before I forget, the same engine on these Volvos was used in the Volvo 700 series and the Volvo 900 series as well. Before you go, however, do me a favor and answer a poll I'm gonna put up here. Tell me whether you want to see more videos like this. Maybe you want to see a top 5 sports car, top 5 trucks under 5,000 bucks or whatever. Or maybe even if you're sick of these videos and you want to see something else unrelated to these top 5 videos. For example, you might want to see something about the Audi project and how it's going. Anyway, go ahead and participate in this poll, and I promise that your vote counts and it will matter, and I won't use the Electoral College this time. And until next time, you can also check out these other related videos, of which I put links to on this side of the screen. There will also be links down below in the description box as well. All right, thanks for watching. See you guys soon.